Welcome to video number 3 of the Mica scandal series. This video is going to be a whole lot longer than the first two, but I want you all to stay with us until the end. This whole thing started with me blocking Cassie's lorry from going up my road and shouting outside a building site in Carndonagh. Incredibly, it took off on social media. Now we have a very professional team, including an engineer, a geologist and a very good legal team, all offering their services. And by God, what a team they are. Working for everyone, and I mean everyone affected by the Mica and Pyrite. Work has already been going on behind the scenes to fix defective walls and buildings around Donegal. Donegal County Council has assured us they will take a proper look at the Oral Leisure Centre in Letterkenny, despite the fact they have already begun remedial works on the cracking walls. Thousands of people travelled from Donegal and the west of Ireland to protest in Dublin. The aim was to bring to the attention of this government the Mica and Pyrite scandal of Donegal and Mayo and other counties. A disaster that previous governments are responsible for. Yes, the quarries may have caused the crisis, but the governments and county councils were responsible for market surveillance and safeguard procedures under European Union regulations dating back many years.
What do we want? 100%! Right, people up on there, use of the power to fix us here. Today's the day, we want answers today, not over the summer.
We travelled by bus, car, motorbikes and even bicycles. Well done, Ronan McLaughlin. Men, women, children. What was the reception we got when we landed to hand over a letter to the coalition government?
Actually, on the Monday, I was asked to email all the heads of government, all the different parties. So I emailed everyone in the same letter, just with a different salutation. And they all came back, and Leo Varadkar came back, and he basically said, Leo Varadkar's office came back and he said, unfortunately, we won't be able to talk with you. We won't be able to take the letter off you, but if you can drop it off at Leinster House for my attention, we'll get it then. So he wasn't available to actually take it off us, so we were a bit sore about that.
Advice from Leo Varadkar, the Taoiseach, was to put it in a letterbox at the gate outside Leinster House. Talk about disrespect for the people. Michael Martin was no better. He would not even come outside the convention centre to accept the same letter. Yet when we all marched away towards Leinster House, he cowardly left the convention centre, stopping briefly to listen to half a dozen people who had remained. He didn't stop for long. Watch and make up your own minds.
And with the county council, because I wanted to hear what they were saying in terms of the applications that are coming involved.
Yeah, what about the county council?
Yeah, I met with them.
Yeah. And what's the situation in the county council?
How do you mean?
Regarding the county council, what actions can be taken against the county council? They're involved in this as well, like.
In terms of the building control
yeah.
Side, yeah, but that's a separate piece. I think the meeting was focused on the grant, the scheme. To look after the homeowners. That's what the meeting primarily was focused on. And I said, you know what we're going to do?
Yeah. I had to need the guarantee. You have the guarantee.
Well, we're going to make sure that the president.
Taxpayers' money,
Thousands of us marched on to Leinster House, a march that will go down in history as one of the biggest and most peaceful the Dublin city has ever seen. Garda reported not one single incident. I hope we don't have to go back. Frustrations may create a different story. Things don't get any better at Leinster House. There was no one to accept our letter, but I'll tell you what, we weren't going to be beat. We marched halfway across the city to the other entrance, and by God, they finally let us in, and we delivered our letter.
So we built our house in 2002, and we used a local supplier to build our house. We moved in 2006. And it was the winter of 2010, of the big snow, that we first noticed spider cracks and a few cracks. We thought it was the plaster. So 2017 we decided that we would fix the house. It was getting worse every year, so we decided that we would fix the outer leaf. So there was no talk of demolition or anything. That was the solution 4 years ago, was to fix your outer leaf. That was what everybody that was fixing their house was doing. So we had to go back to the credit union and get 30,000. So it's costing us 40,000 to pay for this repair. So that's what this is costing us, is 40,000 euros.
This cable here, see, as you see yourself, the way this house is in two different levels, the way the cavity wall runs from straight through the house. Well, we've changed this outer part of the house, that would be chambers blocks right up onto the top, you see. But this here is our problem here. This is Cassidy's blocks here on that side of the house here. And it seems to be now that they're sort of, as you see yourself, cracks around here. This seems to be the problem now, you know.
So this room here is quite badly cracked. It's probably the worst room. There's cracks above the windows and doors. Our front porch is badly cracked, and there's completely new cracks in our sitting room. And I'll never forget being in this house, and I can go taking down walls and just hearing your house coming down and you in the house. I'll never forget it. Our wee girl was reared in the Mica house. You know, that's all she's known. She can't bear us talking about it. She has to leave the room, and she hates the mention of it. And you don't want to be that we've one wee girl, and this will be her house, and you don't want to leave her with this nightmare. You want it sorted before that.
Well, I would hope for 100% redress. I would hope for some sort of a, that everybody's included. So I think the worst houses, like them really bad houses, needs to be done. You know what I mean?
We've bought time. That's all we've done. We've bought ourselves a bit of time to figure out our next move, and I think if your house is Mica, it's only a matter of time that if there's Mica in your house, the Mica's going to win eventually. That's my theory, that the Mica will win, and there's no way out of it. Only to start again. That's what I think.
Much talk has been going on around about the redress scheme and replacing outside leaves of houses and other remedial works. Ambrose McCluskey, consulting engineer, has recently sent a 4-page letter to all interested parties. We received a copy of this letter by email. The letter has some interesting points, and I quote from the letter: "I have several concerns with regards to the concrete block scheme. The fundamental issue, as I see it, is that not enough is known about the exact mode of degradation of the blocks in order to recommend with any certainty the partial fixes in the standard IS 465 form. The worst affected houses are those deemed in a dangerous state should be demolished without delay. It is also noteworthy that geologists have alerted us to the presence of pyrite and non-sulfite, similar to pyrite, in the majority of samples at levels beyond what would be deemed allowable in aggregate for concrete. In simple terms, any course of remedial short of a complete demolition will mean that potentially degrading blocks will remain. With the exception of a full demolition, no guarantee of warranty will be provided to the homeowner by the chartered engineer." Ambrose goes on to mention insurance companies, and will they cover the property, mortgage lenders, property values and future guarantee schemes. He concludes that at present there does not appear to be enough proven science to allow the partial fixes to be recommended with any degree of certainty. He also says that there have been numerous reports of county council employees questioning the recommendations of engineers, geologists, which is worrying. Listen people, rest assured we are fighting for state guarantees within the working group. We looked into this, and you know what is fairly shocking? What we discovered is that the person in charge of making the decisions is not even a chartered engineer or trained on the IS 465. Despite the Minister for Housing granting a staffing sanction request, make a redress scheme to include 2 executives. This letter was sent to John McLaughlin, the Chief Executive of the Council, on the 22nd of December 2020. Forwarded on to Joe Peoples, Director of Services, on the 23rd of December 2020. Let's get back though to who the biggest culprit was. Cassidy's. Much will be talked about Cassidy's NSAI block certificate. Well, we have looked at this certification, and guess what? Cassidy's have gone ahead and certified their own blocks as been made from quartzite. Really? People, the pyramids were made from quartzite, and they still standing after 2,000 years. And our houses are crumbling after the last 2 decades. This is off the charts. Quartzite is a very clean sandstone, one of the cleanest, containing zero mica or pyrite, and yet Cassidy's own geologist has stated clearly on their planning application, and I quote, "Most future quarrying will take place in Area B. The grey Wackle sandstones are a strong aggregate and suitable for most end uses." Well look, that may be so, but grey Wackle sandstone is known to contain problematic minerals such as mica and pyrite. We can also say for 100% certainly that pyrite is present in the area identified as suitable as it is mentioned in their own geological report, but to what quantity we don't know. Mica or pyrite should never have gone onto Cassidy's blocks. An Irish and European standard, ISEN 12620, was published on the 25th of October 2002. This looks at stone and concrete blocks. That was 18 years ago. These standards states that every 3 years a geologist should look at the aggregate going into the blocks with a microscope to see if it has mica or pyrite. We find it hard to believe that a professional geologist didn't alert Cassidy's to the presence of mica when the first tests were done in 2002. It also states on their NSAI certificate, water absorption not to be left exposed, durability against freeze and thaw not to be left exposed. We know that after production, Cassidy's blocks are stockpiled, exposed to elements of hail, rain, frost or snow in an open yard for many months, perhaps even longer during the periods of downturn in demand. This would be absolutely detrimental to blocks containing mica. Finally, John McLaughlin sends an email to Richard Gibson and Joe Peoples on the 10th of the 5th, 21, the day we blocked the site in Cairn, and it says, and I quote, Richard, can you ask the procurement officer to check nationally the position of the Quarry on excluding a particular company because they previously supplied what turned out to be defective blocks, when they can now supply certified blocks from the same quarry? They know and admit that Cassidy's were supplying defective blocks, causing misery and hardship to thousands of people. Why are they not struck off the procurement list years before now? Here we are. Go back to the NSAI certificate again. They are openly accepting this cert as the Holy Grail. And this is coming from the Chief Executive of the Donegal County Council. Remember, we had a 2018 block tested and it contained high levels of mica. What's to say that 2021 blocks don't contain also? We also now know from Cassidy's own environmental report from 2004 that accompanied their planning application that year, Cassidy's were using quarry dust instead of sand. Yes, you heard that right. They were using quarry dust instead of sand. And I quote from the report, while there are many potential sources of construction sand in County Donegal, many of these are associated with areas of ecological importance, high landscape value and vulnerable groundwater. Cassidy's quarry produces washed sand on site from fines produced as a byproduct from crushing rock, making use of what might otherwise be known as waste material. And there you have it, folks. Not only were there aggregate full of mica, the sand probably was too, and still is. Take a look at this email that was obtained under the Freedom of Information. It's about the certification of Cassidy's blocks. They think they're off the hook as all they had to do was ensure the appropriate certification was in place. They are sorely mistaken. This email between senior management of Donegal County Council shows that the Donegal County Council were the Market Surveillance Authority in line with the European Union Construction Products Regulations in 2013. This email reveals that the Council did receive a number of complaints in respect to products, such as wastewater treatment and concrete lintels, and you can bet that many of them complaints were about defective blocks. It appears that they have received the NSAI's factory production control and declaration of conformity from Cassidy's in relation to the products and aggregates. They also helpfully tell us that you can get these certifications from Cassidy's own website. Just let that sink in for a minute. From Cassidy's own website. Look at the date on the email, the 19th of May 2021. Executive Management of Donegal County Council still haven't got a clue what's going on and tell us that the certification can be got off Cassidy's own website. Well, this isn't really true, boys, because only some of this is available on Cassidy's website. Because guess what? We actually checked into this and followed it up. Donegal County Council, as Market Surveillance Authority, was neglect in their role, and they let people down of Donegal. They could have stopped this years ago. And after they got the complaints about the defective blocks, they had the authority and the just cause under Part 3 of the EU Construction Products Legislation to A. Get the records of the geological tests that were carried out on stones going onto the blocks, which must have revealed the presence of mica, and ensured the test met standards. B. They had the authority and the just cause to go into the quarry themselves to independently test the stones and aggregates going onto the blocks. C. But here, more importantly, they had the authority and just cause to go in and test the actual blocks for mica and pyrite. Instead, they just took the word of Cassidy's that all was great at Cassidy Brothers Concrete Products and ignored the people in the crumbling homes. People like ourselves, desperately trying to raise the alarm because Donegal County Council haven't done their job. They have allowed faulty construction products to be sold in this EU member state. I don't think the European Commission will be too happy about this. In the case of Cassidy Brothers Concrete Products, the material on their certification for the blocks doesn't even match the materials in Cassidy's own geological report, said was in the quarry in the planning application to Donegal County Council, so you wouldn't class that as appropriate action. No sampling, no testing, no actual inspections. What a farce. Just walked away, leaving the people of Donegal and further afield to continue to suffer the consequences of defective blocks with little or non-existent regulations. This all shows the negligence of the individuals involved and the senior management team of the Donegal County Council, with whom the buck stops. Each and every one of them failed to understand their role. In doing so, they have allowed this plague of defective blocks to continue, with the financial, physical and mental health of us all continuing to get worse. I'll pass you over to my good friend Barry, who's been helping this team from day one.
We are about to show you some shocking evidence that we obtained under Freedom of Information requests that we submitted 6 weeks ago to Donegal County Council. These are the minutes of the Donegal County Council Mica Redress Committee meeting held on the 13th of May 2021, 3 days after the site was blocked in Carndona. Joe Peoples, Director of Housing and Senior Management of Donegal County Council, tells this meeting that according to the Expert Panel Report 2017 on defective blocks, that there was no option to pursue anyone for liability. Well, we have read this report in depth several times. We can't find this anywhere. It specifically states that this panel can't apportion legal liability. So, Joe Peoples, can you please clarify your comments and tell us where in this report this is? Is there another report that we don't know about? Let's move on though. You're now looking at a letter that was sent by Donegal County Council to the Principal Officer at the Department of Housing just over 1 year ago, just as they were about to introduce the defective blocks scheme and start accepting the applications. You can see in this letter that they were looking for confirmation following their earlier discussion that the Department of Housing would fund all the costs associated with the remediation works of the council's affected Mica houses. So folks, the council want 100% redress for their houses, and they are happy to run a scheme that's not even 90-10 for the innocent homeowners, that's requesting these innocent families stump up tens of thousands of euro, causing untold frustration with their ludicrous requests for further information to these people. It's a bit ironic all this, because we now have Joe Peoples sitting at the negotiating table on this new working group. And there's a phrase that springs to mind. Is the fox now in charge of the henhouse? You'll also notice that copied into this letter is Paul Benson from the Department of Housing. He also was sitting at this negotiating table. There's another very important individual who we feel has some very important questions to answer here. This man was Chief Executive of Donegal County Council from 2014 to July 2020. Mr. Neely, can you please explain why market surveillance was not implemented in 2013 and policed thoroughly with rigorous testing in place? It wasn't as if you weren't aware of the Mica situation in Donegal. Upon retirement from Donegal County Council, Seamus Neely was appointed as chairman of the new independent working group for defective housing and apartments for Ireland in January 2021. The man who appointed him is none other than current Minister for Housing, Mr. Dara O'Brien. I am asking each and every one of you watching this video to pick up the phone or email your local county councillor, all 37 of them. We paid €30 for these Freedom of Information requests. This is information that your local county councillor could have had and should have had. There's no use or no point in sitting in at a meeting and raising this issue and not following it up. They could have done what we've just done in this video.
Donegal County Council should have set up a database for every affected or possibly affected house. Ryan Stewart took it upon himself to set up micamaps.com for homeowners to register their properties. To date, over 1,000 people have registered. but a lot of people still have concerns.
Well, I'm Ryan Stewart and my business is Anish Media. I noticed at the start of the campaign that there was a lot of people coming forward saying that they had Mica and all the rest of it, and it really gained a lot of traction from what Paddy was doing and all the rest. So just looking at the number of people responding, there doesn't seem to be any sort of coherent way of putting across the extent of the damage caused by Mica. So what I do in terms of website development and stuff like that. So anyway, I put together the Mica map to sort of show the extent of the damage caused around Donegal and further afield, because this is affecting counties all along the western seaboard now. And at the minute it stands at about 2,000 properties that have been registered. So, you know, it kind of it shows the politicians and it shows the council and it shows the people in the street just how bad the situation is. Unfortunately, I've had a couple of people contact me as well to remove their properties from the register, the register that we've created, which is, it's understandable but unfortunate, because they would have had maybe neighbours calling to them and asking them to remove their properties, thinking that it'll affect their insurance, their property prices and so on, even if the houses have Mica. Now that's something, you know, if you have Mica and you haven't informed your insurance company, it's very unlikely you're going to be covered. Your house, if it has Mica, the resale value is going to be negligible. So whether your neighbour has it, or you have it, or somebody around the corner has it, your house is still going to be affected. So I suppose what I'm asking people to do is, you know, accept the fact that there's a good chance they have Mica in their house, given when you look at the map you see the extent of it, and, you know, access the scheme when the scheme becomes available, get your property fixed. But until then, we need to show how wide and how far this Mica problem reaches.
Under the Local Government Reform Act of 2014, there is a section on the suspension and removal of Chief Executive. We are asking for the councillors that we have voted for to take immediate action and propose a resolution for the removal of the Chief Executive of the County Council, as he has clearly fallen short on the effective performance of the local authority and its functions. The Chief Executive must be replaced with someone who has a massive reform agenda. There must be a public consultation on which areas require reform, and the new Chief Executive must action all of them. The following Directors of Services must also be replaced, as they have also had the responsibility to take action, and they also have fallen way short on the effective performance of the local authority and its functions. Planning in allowing a 25-year extension to Cassie's Quarry in 7 weeks. Housing for continuing to use defective blocks and their housing stock. Finance for allowing procurement of materials from this quarry. All of them have shown to be incompetent in their complete failure to understand and implement their role as market surveillance authority. Listen, these might be nice people, and it gives us no pleasure whatsoever in asking them to be replaced. However, these are the men in these areas of responsibility, and the buck has to stop with them. It's not about individuals, it's about bringing reform and change. And for that to happen, there has to be consequences. Otherwise, what is to stop whoever replaces these people from allowing the same thing to happen again?